Rolex breaks almost every single rule in the modern marketing playbook. They do no pay ads, they do no social ads, no flash sales, no viral content strategy, and they're definitely not posting multiple times a day to stay relevant. And still, they are one of the most, if not the most, well-known brands in the world. So either the rules are wrong, or Rolex knows something that most brands haven't figured out yet. In this video, I'm going to walk through the 5 rules that Rolex breaks and show you why breaking each one is actually the smarter move. My name is Alex. I'm the founder of Deus Marketing. We work with luxury and high-end brands across Europe, UK, and the US. Here's what makes Rolex an interesting case study. They're not the most expensive watch brand. AP, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille, and FP Journe are all more expensive options. They are not even the most technically innovative, which the argument goes to a lot of different other watch brands like Grand Seiko, which we'll talk about in the next video. But Rolex is without question the most recognized luxury brand on the planet, not just in the watch category, but in every single category. And they built that doing the exact opposite of everyone else. Rule number 1. Run ads to get discovered. Rolex spends almost nothing on traditional advertising relative to their brand value. Don't get me wrong, Rolex runs ads, they run print ads, but they do not run TV commercials. They run no TV commercials pushing product features, no social media campaigns with CTAs. Instead, Rolex by association. They had Wimbledon since 1978, the Masters Golf, Formula One, which they now don't have anymore, which is a very interesting topic. They still have the America's Cup and the Explorers Club. A very important moment in history when it comes to Rolex and marketing in general is in 1927, when Mercedes Gleite swam the English Channel wearing a Rolex Oyster. Hans Willdorf, who is the founder of Rolex, made sure that the Times of London ran the story next morning. This was a manufacturing PR genius move, nearly a century before everyone else started doing it. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay wore Rolex when they climbed Everest in 1953. That story is still a part of their marketing and storytelling today, 73 years later. So the distinction here is that Rolex doesn't necessarily buy reach, by the context in which you perceive the brand. Every association is chosen because it embodies achievement, precision, and legacy. When you see Rolex at Wimbledon or Formula One, it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel like an ad, it feels appropriate, it feels integrated to the brand and the people who are there. So the lesson for your brand is, where do you want to belong? What events, conversations, or communities make your brand feel inevitable, make your brand feel welcome, natural, instead of promoted? Rule number 2 is that discounts drive sales. Rolex has never run a sale. There are no outlet stores, there are no clearance events, there are no limited time offers only. The moment you discount is the moment you send a signal to every single customer who bought at full price. Your original price is a lie. Proof that it actually works is that Rolex watches maintain their value in the secondhand market. Often they actually increase in value on the secondhand market because you cannot buy them from the store. And in 2022, Rolex extended the resale, the gray market, whatever you want to call it, further, launching a certified pre-owned program to manage pricing in the secondary market. This is an interesting approach and has been discussed in many different channels here on YouTube in terms of watches and how it affects pricing. But the uncomfortable truth for most brands is that the customers you attract with a discount are not your customers. Your customer is someone who needs certainty and not necessarily a bargain. They relate to your brand, your product. They're not looking for the best price. Pricing discipline is brand discipline. You cannot hold a premium positioning and run promotions. These two things are definitely not compatible. Rule number 3 in marketing is usually be available everywhere and always. Rolex restricts access. You cannot buy a Rolex Submariner or a Daytona by walking into a store and just asking for one. In most places, you can't even buy any Rolex besides women's pieces just by walking in the door. You need a relationship with the authorized dealer close to you. And to get the piece you actually want, you need to buy other To get the piece you actually want, you often need to buy other pieces as well. Rolex produces about 1 million watches a year. That is not a low amount of watches. Demand for the most coveted models massively exceeds what they actually produce. They could produce more. We all know they could produce more, but they choose not to. What this does is that it turns the purchase into an actual achievement. Getting the watch validates the buyer before they're even worn it. And here's a critical point. This only works because the product genuinely deserves it. Rolex earns the waitlist through actual quality. If you try to manufacture scarcity before you have earned it, or the product isn't in fact scarce, it just looks like you have poor stock management or are trying to build hype around your product, which we have seen on other brands in the watch space. Think about how people access your service. Does it feel easy and transactional, or does it feel selective and considered? Luxury buyers often want to feel chosen, not just convenient. Rule number 4 is more followers means more reach. What we usually see in influencer or ambassador marketing, but Rolex picks their people for who they are. Rolex calls their ambassadors testimonies, not influencers, not brand ambassadors. That language actually matters. They're testifying to the brand, not necessarily promoting it. Roger Federer is an extremely good example. It's a 26-year-long relationship. He signed in 1991. He signed in 1999 before he even won a single Grand Slam. That's a bet on character and trajectory, not just current fame. Tiger Woods is another example in sports. They have other Wimbledon champions, deep sea explorers, and of course racing drivers. These are long commitments, often over decades, not transactional deals renewed year to year, which we often see in the watch space, where we see a new brand ambassador, the contract is 1 year or 2 years, and then all of a sudden they're with an entirely another brand, which seems very confusing. What it signals to buyers is that wearing a Rolex puts you in the company of people who have genuinely achieved something. The lesson is who represents your brand matters more than how many people actually follow them. One deep association with someone your ideal client identifies with is worth more than 10 broad partnerships with high follower accounts. Rule number 5, this is the last rule, is that tell people why they should buy. Rolex copy almost never sells the products. Read any Rolex advertising. These have changed a little bit in the recent years because people have become extremely detail oriented in the watch space. They are nerding out, which means they need to adapt. There's usually no mention of the technical movement, no price, no water resistant numbers. Instead, they use language like the Explorer, Oyster Perpetual, Submariner, Daytona, to relate their products into different categories. Their tagline is a crown for every achievement, not a watch for every occasion, which means it's an achievement, not necessarily a function piece. Which is also interesting because Rolex usually makes very straight to the point, like tool watches. Their visual language is people at peak moments, athletes at the height of their careers, explorers in hostile environments, and the watch is almost identical. Rolex have been extremely consistent with their advertising across the last 50 years. It's restrained, it's confident, and it's never ever loud. The lesson here is stop describing what your product or service does. Start describing what it means. What identity does owning it give to the buyer? What does working with you say about them? Meaning is what drives premium decisions. So here's the thing. Rolex aren't actually breaking any marketing rules. They're playing an entirely different game. Most brands are playing the acquisition game. How do I reach more people, convert more buyers, and generate more revenue this quarter? Rolex is playing the longevity and meaning game. How do I make this object represent something so significant that people will spend years working towards owning one? Every decision that looks like a rule violation is actually perfect logic for the game that Rolex is playing. No ads because advertising feels transactional and kills the brand mystique. No discounts, because discounts signal that the price is always negotiable and the brand was never truly premium. Restricted access, because availability destroys desire. Character-based ambassadors. So again, because the brand needs to live in the same mental space as genuine achievement, Rolex picks their ambassadors in that way. No product copy, because luxury is never about the object, it's about what the object actually means. The question for your brand is, how do I apply the Rolex playbook? The question is, what game are you actually playing? And is everything you're doing, your branding, your pricing, your distribution, your content, consistent with the game that you are playing? Because the brands that fail at premium aren't usually bad at marketing. They're usually playing two games at once, and that's impossible to win. If this was useful, please subscribe. Every week I break down how the world's best luxury brands build, desire, and command premium prices, and what that means for your brand or your agency. In the next video, we're going to be a bit different. Instead of a brand breakdown, I'm going to talk about something from my personal experience. I ran marketing for Seiko and Grand Seiko at the same time for over 2 years. Same parent company, completely different positioning challenges. And that one is coming later this week. If you're running a luxury or premium brand and want to talk about strategy, visit deusmarketing.io. The link is in the description, and let's have a chat. I'll see you in the next one.